You know, we have to train ourselves. They said, if you want to, they've done studies. If you want to lose weight, and you're overweight, hang around somebody that's in shape. If you're not smart, hang around a smart person. So if you want to be moral, hang around a person that's moral. If you want to be an activist, hang around activists. Why? Because there's a lifestyle that's associated with that. There's a language that's associated with that. And the more you're around these types of people, it rubs off. You get some of that. So whatever work you're trying to do, if I'm trying to be an NBA basketball player and you're trying to be a botanist, I'm not saying we can't coexist, we can't have dialogue. But if you're hanging with me, I'm spending so much time on the court, you're not going to be great as a botanist. You're going to miss out, right? If I spend so much time with you, I'm not saying we can't coexist, we can't have dialogue, we can't learn from each other. But if I'm trying to be great in basketball, I got to get with people that's training like me. If I want to be an activist, I got to associate with activists. If I want to know about something, I got to go to those who know. And I got to sit with them. I got to learn from them. I got to struggle with the information. And so that's something I think when we're talking about doing whatever work we're trying to do, we have to associate ourselves with people that are in that line of work. And we gain strength from that. We gain courage from that. We gain confidence from that.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt DeSantis. I'm the CEO and co-founder of the Teen Think Tank Project, and I'd like to welcome you to our policy launch party featuring the Economic Equality Summer Research Group. That voice that you just heard is social justice advocate, former NBA star, and friend of the Teen Think Tank Project, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. His message is simple. If you want change, you have to hang out with those who are working to make change happen. So for 36 hours over the past 3 weeks, I've been hanging around with 9 exceptional change agents who have dedicated their summer to exploring and solving the social issues that they see, experience, and are troubled by. Over the next 90 minutes, these teen leaders will walk you through a series of conversations that highlight their journey to becoming change agents looking to address the impediments that are preventing all Americans from obtaining financial security. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to the team. Sam Binder, take it away.
Thank you. We are going to go ahead and share my screen. Hi, my name is Sam, and welcome to the cohort.
My name is David, and we're so excited to have you today. We can take a quick look at the agenda for today's meeting. So just some important overviews. At around 11:40 after our introduction, we will each begin presenting our policy papers, and then we'll recognize our guest speakers and other influencers who have helped us.
And then after that, we're going to go ahead and award the scholarship, and then we're going to conclude around 1.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a great time listening to our presentation, and I'm going to hand it over to Nikita and Ethan, who will be introducing our cohort.
Thank you, David. So Ethan and I have compiled a quick video that will introduce each of the members of our cohort in depth. So please enjoy.
My name is Akil and I'm from Kansas City. I attend Blue Valley High School. I'm an economics subject matter expert and I chose that group because I'm looking to study economics in the future. To me, hearing the guest speakers' experiences has been the most insightful and beneficial part of the Teen Think Tank. I'm passionate about local community issues and Gen Z civic engagement, and I joined this program to become a more effective change agent.
Hi, my name is Nikita Kumar and I'm from Bridgewater, New Jersey, where I attend Bridgewater Raritan High School. I'm part of the Economics Impediment SME group because it aligns with my interest in understanding and addressing financial barriers. And I found the guest speakers aspect of this project the most beneficial because it provided a lot of real-world insights and diverse perspectives. I'm really passionate about youth involvement in policy and economics, which led me to join the Teen Think Tank, as I believe in the power of informed youth to drive change.
Hi, my name is Sam, and I'm from Hillsborough High School. I'm part of the Social Impediments group, and I picked that group because I wanted to focus on how the social determinants of health impact financial security. I found that the peer reviewing was the most beneficial part for me because it allowed me to get feedback from, obviously, my peers. And then I'm really passionate about making change, and I think that's what drew me to the Teen Think Tank project.
My name is David. I am from Pennington, New Jersey, where I attend the Wilberforce School. I am part of the Social Impediments SME group, and I picked that one because I work in social justice, and specifically I work to close educational gaps and provide resources. And the aspect that I found most beneficial was peer reviewing because I got to listen to the opinions of my peers.
Hi, my name is Chris Aurora. I'm from Dallas, Texas, where I attend Leadership Prep High School. I'm a part of the Social Impediments SME group because I'm interested about the social norms that really affect financial stability for people of different social classes. I think the most beneficial part of the project was the peer review because I was not forced, but I needed to take the feedback from my peers, which in turn also helped my work. I'm passionate about helping others and growing my skills to better the world and people. So I felt that's why I joined Teen Think Tank.
So my name is Ethan Afeado. I'm from West Orange, New Jersey, and I go to Pomfret School in Connecticut. And I'm part of the Social Impediments group. And I picked that specific group because I feel like there are many aspects to social impediment to financial security that can be found in the social sphere that I know of. And I see those things every day. So I feel like researching that was only fair to me in the place that I live. And I feel like the aspect of the project that's been the most beneficial to me as of right now has been the peer review. I think it's been really beneficial hearing what my peers have to say, hearing different views, and us learning from each other.
I'm Malika, and I'm from Rome, Italy, where I attend IIS via the Paparizzi High School. I am part of the legal impediment, and I picked this because I wanted to see the working laws and the possible solutions. The most impactful aspect of the project for me was the peer review, which allowed me to gain insights which I otherwise wouldn't have.
My name is Paxton Wang and I'm from Southern California. I attend St. Andrews School. I am part of the legal SME, and the reason I picked this group is because I have been exposed to this topic and I wanted to do more research and learn about the specific topic. I feel like the most beneficial part of the project for me was a peer review because I was able to see other skills and how I can learn from them and implement that in my work.
Hi, my name is Govi Chadlavada and I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, where I attend Western Reserve Academy. I chose the legal SME because both it aligns with my interests the best, and also I think using the law is the best way to make actual effective change. I think the aspect of the project that was most beneficial to me was probably the peer review, because I think that collaborative environment really helped me understand different viewpoints and different places where people were coming from. And the passions that led me to join the Teen Think Tank were probably my interest in public policy and how that actually can affect real change. and how the teen think tank acts as like a source of education on how to like use public policy.
Thank you, and now I will hand it off to Mia.
Thank you very much, Nikita and Ethan. Today, I'll be presenting a research overview mentioning our value, purpose, motivation, and why we do what we do. Welcome. We are today's teen tank thinkers and tomorrow's change agents. Through our journey of 3 weeks, we have identified what is the problem, how is that a problem, and even possible solutions. But that's not all. Today, we'd like to share our purpose, process, values, and motivation. Why we do what we do. We joined this program to both educate ourselves and others on the issues surrounding poverty in the modern day. Through this education, we have now built our resources to become change agents of tomorrow's world. From healthcare to education to housing, we have explored many aspects in which poverty affects the daily lives of citizens. We will now spend the next hour presenting the research we have compiled throughout our 3 weeks together. We, as a team, value integrity, accountability, and group work more than anything. We have learned that we share these values due to our mutual respect and collaboration as a cohort. We are not all the exact same though. Some of us value aspects of life such as compassion, empathy, or curiosity more than others. This is what helps us build the cohort into a diverse blend of different values, all working towards a common goal. Our why is to be able to create an impact and to bring changes to society.
Thanks so much, Mia, for that introduction. Hello, I'm Akil, and I'll start off the policy presentations. So today, I'm discussing the affordable housing crisis and its impact on financial stability amongst low-income families in urban areas of the United States. Now, this issue is particularly significant given the ongoing financial crises and increasing poverty throughout America. Now, throughout these slides, we'll define affordable housing as housing that costs no more than 30% of a household's income, and financial stability as the ability to absorb shocks and sustain obligations, like paying rent and taxes. Now, first, income inequality significantly exacerbates housing challenges. See, as the income gap widens, low-income households struggle to find affordable housing and often spend a large portion of their income on housing costs. In 2023, for example, over 8.53 million low-income citizens spent more than half of their annual income on housing, well over the 30% recommended rate, highlighting the significant financial burden that they face. Now, this financial strain deepens poverty and increases the risk of eviction for these families when they cannot pay rent. And addressing income inequality is crucial for promoting financial stability and reducing poverty in the United States. But second, the high cost of living throughout America is also a key factor, which significantly influences the availability and accessibility of affordable housing. See, in urban areas where low-income families are more prevalent, high living expenses make it increasingly challenging for these households to find housing within their limited budgets. Since 2001, average monthly rent costs have risen by 18.8%, while average income has only increased by slightly over 4%. And this disparity makes it almost impossible for low-income families to afford housing. In cities like Chicago, the high cost of living worsens housing insecurity, leading to a widening gap between low-income residents and affordable housing options. And the US government has both a moral and legal responsibility to ensure that all citizens have access to adequate and affordable housing. However, government funding for affordable housing programs has not kept up with the increasing demand, resulting in lengthy waiting lists and inadequate resources. Additionally, marginalized communities, including racial minorities, immigrants, and individuals with disabilities, face systemic barriers that exacerbate their financial instability and limit their access to affordable housing. Clearly, increased government support is essential to overcoming these barriers and addressing the affordable housing crisis. Which leads us into our policy options and solutions to address this crisis. Now, one effective strategy is the housing first framework, which shifts resources from transitional to permanent housing and promotes the idea that housing is a prerequisite to other issues. Drug addictions and irregular work schedules, as well as other issues, can't be easily solved without access to safe housing first. Additionally, expanding federal rental assistance to reach every low income person who needs it is also crucial. That's a government action that needs to be taken and properly enforced to ensure that people aren't skipped over. And finally, nonprofit housing organizations, such as community land trusts, play a central role in making homes more affordable by removing the cost of land from housing prices. They were used in Chicago to overcome high cost of living, and these policy options can promote housing affordability and mitigate the economic impediments posed by the affordable housing crisis. So, in conclusion, the affordable housing crisis is a significant economic barrier to financial stability and poverty alleviation in America. But by addressing the challenges of affordable housing through these targeted policies, we can promote economic stability and improve the well being of vulnerable populations. Thank you. Here are some of my references, and I'll now pass it on over to Nikita.
All right, so hi everyone. My name is Nikita, and today I will be discussing the critical issue of wage disparities within corporations and how it drives economic inequality. So, economic inequality is a pressing issue in modern societies, affecting social stability, economic growth, and overall well being. In many corporations, CEOs earn significantly more than their average employees. For instance, Amazon CEO Andy Jassy earns vastly more than the average Amazon worker. This significant compensation difference highlights the broader issue of economic inequality and its roots in corporate wage structures, according to the Economic Policy Institute. So, one primary consequence of corporate wage disparities is the increased concentration of wealth at the top. High earners within corporations, like executives, tend to save a larger portion of their income compared to the average worker. This leads to a wealth concentration that limits the money circulating in the broader economy. According to the Economic Policy Institute, from 1979 to 2019, the median US workers' compensation rose by only 13.7%, while productivity grew by 59.7%. This 46 percentage point difference shows how economic growth benefits are disproportionately captured by those at the top. As wage growth stagnates for the majority of workers, their buying power is also significantly reduced, impacting consumer demand and overall economic growth. Nearly 800 million workers worldwide have seen their wages fail to keep pace with inflation, resulting in a loss of $1.5 trillion over 2 years. This reduced buying power affects not just individual households, but entire sectors. For example, the fast fashion industry, reliant on low wage labor, has seen a decline in consumer spending due to wage stagnation. So, wage disparity within corporations can also create a self perpetuating cycle of inequality. As wealth concentrates at the top, high income individuals have more resources to invest in opportunities that lead to higher future earnings. Meanwhile, low wage workers struggle to access these opportunities, limiting their economic mobility. Since 2020, while 5 billion people have become poor, the world's 5 richest men have more than doubled their fortunes. This disparity is driven by corporate practices prioritizing short-term profits over long-term sustainability, perpetuating economic inequality. So, as the issue of wage disparity gains more attention, there's growing pressure on corporations to address internal pay structures. Some companies are implementing transparent pay structures and practices, but it is necessary to make sure all companies do this in order to narrow the gap between executive and average employee salaries. This can be done through progressive policy work, so corporations are pushed to be more transparent in their salaries. Initiatives like profit sharing programs and employee stock ownership plans show promise in promoting wage equity and aligning the interests of employees and executives. However, significant challenges remain, such as entrenched corporate cultures and market pressures. Addressing these challenges requires concerted efforts from policymakers, corporate leaders, and stakeholders to develop a more equitable system. Thank you.
Um, Thank you, Nikita. Oops, sorry, little spoiler there. For my presentation, I explored educational disparity through economic inequality. And my thesis or my what I was focusing on was that economic inequality influences educational disparities, reinforcing systemic barriers that disproportionately affect students from low-income communities, especially when seeking higher education. So a few of the issues that I identified when researching was one, there's a big funding disparity. So wealthy areas actually receive more school funding due to their high property taxes, while poor areas receive less funding, which means more challenges like outdated textbooks, deteriorating infrastructure, and lack of materials. And an eye-opening statistic from the Department of Education is that actually in the top 10% of income districts, they're spending around $20,000 per student, while in the bottom 10%, they're only spending around $2,000 per student. So that's 10 times more for the richest 10% than the poorest 10%. And this can affect the quality of their education and also, as I mentioned earlier, the preparedness for higher education. And one of the things that happens is many people see the statistics surrounding lower income people in higher education. And they simply say, oh, it's because they're not trying hard enough. It should be a meritocracy anyways. But it is often due to these funding disparities. The second issue I was able to identify was the issue of resource allocation. Often due to the funding disparities and generally due to the lack of resources that low-income areas are able to afford. Low-income schools are less likely to secure experienced teachers or have wide curriculum options compared to high-income areas. So a study also done by the Department of Education stated that low-income schools are 2 times more likely than all other schools to have teachers with less than 3 years of experience. Whereas in higher income schools, you have teachers who've been teaching the subject for even decades. Like they know what they're talking about, but for lower income schools, it's most likely going to be newer teachers with less experience. And this affects the students because they are learning from someone who maybe doesn't have the experience of teaching, and they could also be good teachers, but it's harder for them to grasp the subjects. And in addition to that, lower income students also have limited advanced coursework, like less access to AP courses or things like extracurriculars, which, as we know, are both important factors to the college admissions process, where they are severely disadvantaged due to the lack of access to these resources. Um, and when exploring especially historical biases and biases and impacts, things like redlining and segregation perpetuating disadvantages, especially when the most underfunded schools are in predominantly POC and low income areas. This inequality means that we do need to work towards equitable resource distribution so that each student does have the same chance to succeed, that same opportunity. The third problem that I identified while researching was the problem of socioeconomic pressures. So often, because of many insecurities like housing instability, food insecurity, lack of healthcare, which Sam will be talking about later actually, there is a lingering pressure behind students that often makes it harder for them to perform well in schools. Whereas students in more affluent areas or even middle income areas are not really worrying about whether they'll have food on the table. They're not really worrying about whether they have to maybe work for their family to keep them afloat. And these kinds of pressures are really affect high schoolers and children who are in school. And it does also affect college application success. And according to Evans and Kim, these stresses from economic stability can cause mental health issues, and these mental health issues can hinder academic achievement. So now exploring these three issues, let's go into some possible solutions. So for the first issue, funding disparity, a possible solution that I identified was advocating for federal and state policies that ensure equitable funding. And there are state level school reforms that have done this, and they have improved student performance in math and reading. For resource allocation, a possible solution would be to improve the working conditions in low-income schools. So a lot of the times it's not that the teachers do not want to be in low-income areas. Many teachers in low-income areas are just not sure whether they'll receive their next paycheck. And studies have been done showing that teachers are satisfied with working in low-income areas as long as there is enough money being put to help those teachers, give them resources, and also allocating funds for expanding AP courses and extracurricular programs. And this solution goes hand in hand with the equitable funding solution, which ensures that every student is receiving the same amount of money and getting the same amount of money in their public education. The third issue that the third solution that I was able to possibly identify is that we can ensure that schools in low income areas have access to programs, and we can create these programs that address food insecurity and housing instability, and providing even counseling, mental health services to these students can mitigate the adverse effects of socioeconomic pressures on the student and help them to get improved academic outcomes. So finally, addressing economic inequality is essential for closing the educational access gap and working towards social justice. Through concerted efforts in policymaking, community support, and societal change, we can ensure that education becomes a tool for empowerment rather than a reflection of economic divides. Here are a few of the references I've used. And thank you so much for listening to my presentation about my research paper.
Hello, my name is Sam Binder, and today I will be speaking with you all about how the social determinants of health impact financial security. In this case, the social determinants of health are the non-medical factors that significantly impact health and longevity. Poverty is going to be defined as an average household of about 3 people making at or less than $25,820 per year, and low income is defined as 200% of the poverty level, or $51,640 per year for a family of 3. One important factor leading to financial insecurity is education level and health literacy. Approximately 10% of people in poverty are high school dropouts. This leads them to not have the knowledge or understanding to comprehend the language that a doctor uses, leading to the inability to take care of themselves and spending more time outside of work, forcing them farther into poverty. There are disparities in this issue based on race. According to Market US Media, African American communities have significantly lower health literacy rates than white communities. This is because of historical discriminatory practices that drive these communities away, leading to low health literacy rates. It is so important to have health literacy so that people do not spend unnecessary amounts of money and time on healthcare issues. Health insurance and healthcare are also extremely important. People spend hundreds of dollars per month on privatized health insurance, even if that is a discounted employer rate. This is inaccessible to many low-income people because they are not able to spend money on this type of health insurance. Further, many are unable to get health insurance at all because of Medicare coverage gaps. They may make too much to qualify for Medicare and not enough to make for private insurance, leading them to let illnesses fester, which can be more costly to treat in the long run. Behaviors by doctors is another issue in the healthcare system. Doctors may prescribe expensive medication, which pushes individuals and families into a cycle of debt. Another extremely important factor when it comes to the social determinants of health is that of people's neighborhoods and communities. First off, tobacco use. Big tobacco corporations generally target ads towards low-income areas. Then people will become addicted to nicotine and then are spending over $2,500 a year on cigarettes. This also makes them even more unhealthy, and then they are spending more on treatment. Both of these can be avoided with less advertisements. Further, there are food deserts. Healthy food is generally too expensive and inaccessible, whereas processed food is cheaper and more readily available, but then poses greater health concerns. They lead to obesity and malnutrition, which leads to spending more money on healthcare and pushing a family farther into debt and poverty. There are also generally higher crime rates in impoverished neighborhoods, which then leads to emergency hospitalization and costly ER fees. Policy improvements must be put into place to change these issues. First, by implementing health literacy courses as early as elementary school, people would be more well versed in medical terminology and be able to understand when they need to go to the doctor and when they do not. This is more efficient than teaching these skills in high school because low-income communities in the United States have a high school dropout rate of about 10%, which is double the national rate. This keeps the amount people spend on unnecessary doctor's visits to a minimum. Further, movements such as the Let's Move initiative, which was made by Michelle Obama, are aimed at increasing healthy food intake in low-income neighborhoods, which keeps people out of costly doctor's visits that may push them farther into debt and poverty. And then there's the issue of nicotine advertisement. Nicotine corporations must be regulated in the amount they can advertise. There is a program in many low and middle income countries called TAPS. This allows nicotine industries to be regulated in the amount they can advertise, which then leads to people spending less money on their addiction and more money on their necessities such as food and housing. And finally, doctors need to be more forgiving for a patient's personal life. By understanding that someone may not have reliable transportation or that their patient may need generic medication, patients are more likely to see the doctor sooner, which can then keep the amount of costly medical care they need to a minimum. People who live in poverty deserve the same time and resources that are given to people who live surrounded by wealth. And with policies to give them the help that they need, they can lead healthier lives without worrying about where their next meal will come from. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I will go ahead and hand it over to Krish to present. Thank you again.
Thank you, Sam. So let's get right into my presentation. Hello, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the presentation so far. I'm Chris Aurora, and today we'll be talking about social norms and their influence on financial stability. I'll be taking a deep dive into educational norms, employment norms, and a few solutions that we're able to implement today into our society. Cultural values have a profound effect on educational opportunities and professional success. We are a society that values education. This is seen as America's middle class demands an education system grounded in the cultivation and celebration of each child's individuality. But certain segments of our population are underrepresented in our society and are not able to adhere to these social norms because of simple issues such as poverty, poor schools, and the need to prioritize immediate financial outcomes over long-term educational goals. These barriers accessible to qualifications persist in the cycle of poverty with people of lower incomes. As a nation, we tend to offer the upper class more avenues for excellent education and resources, including tutoring and extracurricular activities. America deems education to be essential because educated people earn higher wages and theoretically allow members of lower economic classes to break the cycle of poverty. Therefore, the cultural values of education impact the ability for financial freedom. Equal opportunity for all can find more support in the policy circles of culture where there is a strong emphasis on hard work. In America, the cultural norms pertaining to professional opportunities point towards rewarding individuals' effort and talent. For instance, women and minorities can be further distanced from economic security by such practices and cultural biases, making economic security even more of a out of reach for specific groups. For example, women of color face racial and gender discriminations in the labor market, inhibiting their ability to become financially stable. So this compounded discrimination can result in lower wages, fewer job opportunities, and limited access to career advancement. Solutions. Moreover, by acknowledging and respecting these diverse cultural backgrounds will enable policymakers and organizations to devise more inclusive and fair means to attending the challenges that different social groups go through. During recruitment for hiring companies, they may also implement hiring practices that are racially and culturally blind, thereby ensuring that each person has equal opportunity for employment. Another thing is, to address these challenges, school districts could adopt approaches that relate to the student's background, which will enable the students to feel more involved in the school and they're able to excel further. With the application of these strategies, we are able to develop a more equitable and effective model of education and employment systems that show respect for diversity. Thank you. Up next, we'll have Ethan, and he'll be presenting soon.
Thank you so much, Krish. My name is Ethan Afeato, and I will be presenting on political ideologies and the role as impediments to overall financial security. For this presentation, I will define financial security as the length of time people can live off of their savings. The majority of my research will be based on a general census conducted by the Pew Research Center, in which they divided Americans under political typologies, ranging from the extreme right, faith and flag conservatives, to the extreme progressive left, with many denominations in between. So these political typologies or groups already provide some clarity regarding the common stereotype of conservative or conservative-leaning groups tending to be more financially secure than liberal-leaning groups deemed to be more economically insecure. By dividing America into a diverse spectrum, ideas become less about political demographics and more about social demographics. So the first step in understanding the basis of such stereotypes is acknowledging that the two extremes of the political spectrum do not define every single voter. Research conducted by the Pew Research Center confirms that the majority of the far right and left, 76% and 62% respectively, report that they are currently satisfied with their financial standings. Now, where the stereotype begins to become more prevalent is amongst Democratic-leaning groups, of which fewer than 4 out of 10 say that they are generally satisfied with their financial standing, a number around 35%. This might be because conservative and conservative-leaning households have an average income of $100,000 plus, whereas liberal-leaning households have an average income of less than $30,000. The problem with this is that issues surrounding the party's demographics are what politicians tend to base their campaigns on. If a conservative politician notices that their party is not reporting as much of a struggle in the financial sector as opposed to the liberals, then there is not as much need for the politician to advocate for or talk about financial security, leading to those who are financially insecure feeling as if they must identify with their opposition, in this case the liberals, because they will represent their struggles. However, this is an issue that can be seen also stemming from the employment sector. Whereas 8% of conservative-leaning participants reported unemployment, over 30% of liberal-leaning participants reported in the same fashion. However, much like the financial satisfaction implied, both the extreme right and extreme left report high levels of employment. Yet for Democrats, this number becomes a minority when compared to the percentage of Democratic-leaning members of the political spectrum who are unemployed. Once again, these unproportionate numbers are only worsen the stereotypes and place more complacency amongst conservative politicians in power when they're faced with financial security-based issues. This all comes in and rounds out about political engagement. Now, many of the trends seen in both financial satisfaction and employment carry through to political engagement. There's not a direct correspondence between increased democratic support and financial insecurity, but quite the contrary. Whereas the two extremes of the political spectrum, again, conservative and liberal, both have high rates of political engagement. Again, liberal-leaning citizens, the same people who report high unemployment rates and low financial satisfaction rates, believe that their political engagement means nothing and choose not to vote. Now, there are many solutions, but the majority of them are very generalized, stemming from similar ideas regarding financial impediments. In this manner, it's more about teaching low-income Americans about the government without extreme bias and exacerbating the importance of the individual's vote that can raise political engagement and create more knowledgeable citizens overall. Institutions like the National Democratic Institute work to do just that, reaching out to marginalized communities of different races, genders, and religious beliefs. If we are to stop the political divide from dividing amongst economic status, it needs to start with the most basic of things, education. Thank you, and I'd like to invite Mia to present.
I'm Maria Cristina, and I'll be exploring racial discrimination and its impact on economic inequality. Racial discrimination involves treating individuals unfavorably because of their race or characteristics associated with race, such as hair texture, skin color, or facial features. According to the US Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, this pervasive issue significantly contributes to economic inequality in the United States. Despite progress in civil rights, about a third of Black Americans believe that the country has made little or no progress on racial equality in the last 60 years, a sentiment shared less frequently by Hispanic, white, and Asian Americans. This presentation will explore how racial discrimination has been a primary factor in economic inequality and discuss potential solutions. Historically, discriminatory laws and practices have entrenched economic disparities among racial groups. After the Civil War, the Black courts restricted the freedom and economic mobility of African Americans, aiming to maintain a racial hierarchy and ensure cheap labor. Although these courts are no longer in effect, their legacy persists in this systemic racism and institutional practices. Similarly, Jim Crow laws, enacted in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, enforced racial segregation and created profound economic and social disadvantages for African Americans. The effects of these laws still linger today, visible in disparities in education, employment, and housing. Moreover, redlining practices denied Black families access to mortgage loans and home ownership, severely impacting their ability to build and pass on wealth. Despite being outlawed by the Fair Housing Act of 1968, the effects of redlining persist, with formerly redlined neighborhoods still suffering from lower property values and reduced investment. The legacy of these discriminatory practices manifests in persistent economic disparities. For Black households, the likelihood of experiencing a housing cost burden has increased from 1980 to 2017, even after accounting for various factors, suggesting that racial discrimination continues to play a significant role. Over 1 in 5 renting families in the US spend half their income on housing, a burden disproportionately affecting Black families. Studies also reveal disparities in residential attainment, with Black households having low chances of moving out of high poverty neighborhoods compared to white households. The proportion of rented households facing cost burdens has increased steadily, with nearly 50% affected by 2016 and over 80% of low-income households earning less than $15,000 per year facing severe housing cost burdens. Addressing these disparities requires targeted interventions. Supporting minority-owned small businesses through grants, loans, and support services can help create jobs within communities. Policy interventions are also crucial, such as implementing inclusionary zoning policies to ensure new housing developments include affordable units for low and moderate income families. An example of policy intervention is California's Proposition 209, which banned affirmative action in public employment, education, and contracting. Repealing such measures, as attempted with Proposition 16, is essential for promoting diversity and economic equality. Enhancing funding for public education, particularly in under-reserved communities, expanding access to higher education, and implementing student loan forgiveness programs are vital steps to improve economic opportunities for minors. Workplace equity involves raising the federal minimum wage, enforcing equal pay laws, and supporting labor rights. The Crown Act, which prohibits discrimination based on hair texture and protective hairstyles, is an important step towards fostering an inclusive workplace environment. Comprehensive reforms, combined with community empowerment, are necessary to reduce economic disparities and promote a more just society. Ensuring equal access to opportunities and resources is not only a moral imperative, but also crucial for the economic health and social cohesion of the nation. In conclusion, racial discrimination remains a significant factor in economic inequality in the United States. Historical laws and practices like the Black Codes, Jim Crow laws, and redlining have left enduring legacies that continue to disadvantage racial minorities. Addressing these issues requires a multifaceted approach, including support for minority owned businesses, policy interventions, educational reforms, and workplace equity measures. By dismantling discriminatory practices and implementing inclusive policies, we can work towards a more just and equitable society, ensuring equal economic opportunities for all racial groups. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would now like to hand it over to Paxton.
Thank you, Mia. Hi, my name is Paxton, and today I will be talking about the disparate impact on people of color in the criminal legal system and its effect on individuals after release. This topic is significant because many people are convicted, but people of color are convicted disproportionately. The two major factors in discrimination within the criminal legal system is race and socioeconomic status. We can see here the gap of incarceration rates by race. We're able to see the discrimination people of color face during conviction compared to their white counterparts. This information means that people of color are disproportionately affected by the effects after release. Socioeconomic status also affects an individual's chance of incarceration. Adults living in poverty make up 11% of our population. However, they are 3 times as likely to be convicted than those living above the poverty line. Next, you see the population of poverty by race. We can see here that the 3 racial groups with the larger population in poverty are around 3 times more than the population of white individuals living in poverty. This is important because this shows how people of color have a higher rate of living in poverty, which leads to disproportionate conviction rate. After release, individuals are then affected by housing discrimination. You can see in the graph the large difference of the homelessness rate between the formerly incarcerated and the general public. This shows how the formerly incarcerated have a harder time obtaining housing and often end up in the street. Another obstacle the formerly incarcerated face is the housing application process. Oftentimes, landlords or property management companies conduct background checks on the prospective tenant. If they find the individual has a background, they will likely turn them down. Ultimately, these individuals would resort to substandard housing. These houses that are dilapidated and have poor maintenance can affect an individual's mental and physical health. The formerly incarcerated also face discrimination within employment. Unemployment rate is almost 5 times higher for the formerly incarcerated than for the general U.S. public. Race and gender also affect the formerly incarcerated, as the rates are almost double for Black individuals than white individuals. Similar to housing, employers often conduct background checks, which affects an individual's chance of getting the job. Since people of color are more likely to be convicted, this disproportionately affects those individuals on not being able to obtain a stable paying job. Another issue with employment for the formerly incarcerated is wage disparities. They face approximately 10 to 20% less than the general U.S. public with the same amount of experience and education. This further perpetuates the cycle of poverty. Lastly, the formerly incarcerated face civic engagement bans. In 1985, the Supreme Court ruled in a unanimous decision in the case Hunter versus Underwood that states have the right to disenfranchise criminals if it is without racial intent. People of color are disproportionately convicted, which means civic engagement bans disproportionately affect people of color. This is significant and important because being disconnected from social institutions results in higher recidivism rate. Some possible solutions for housing would be to expand reentry programs by connecting the program with the jail itself and allowing the individual to connect with the reentry program is something that could be useful. Another thing to add in the programs would be supportive services such as counseling or vocational training. A possible solution for unemployment issues are licensing and education opportunities. When an individual is sentenced to jail, licenses are taken from them. Having a way to reobtain them is an opportunity that could get individuals back on track. Another solution for unemployment is prohibiting background checks before offering a job. This will provide the individual with a fair chance to obtain the job. The California Fair Chance Act does this. However, expanding to the whole country would be beneficial. Lastly, a solution for civic engagement is to reform the law. 40 states have done this already. However, 10 states have yet to do so, and it is important that they allow that the individuals to to participate in civic engagement. In conclusion, 1 in 20 individuals will have been sentenced to prison during their lifetime. This makes a large amount of our population, and these individuals need to have the same opportunities that the general public have. It is important that after reentry, people have a place to sleep and a job, as these are some of the most basic necessities in our world today. Having the ability to vote, to express one's voice is important as well. Making sure individuals have equitable opportunities is something that we need to turn our attention. Thank you, and here are my references. I would now like to pass it on to Gobi.
Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about how definitional reform of poverty could enhance the implementation of social safety nets. And I'm basically going to talk about how we should define poverty to see who should be eligible for social safety nets. So what is wrong with how we currently measure poverty? We currently use something called absolute poverty, which is a strict threshold defining what is and what isn't poverty. For example, the World Bank considers presently anyone who makes less than $12.50 a day to be below the poverty line. This provides like a clear and concise standard for poverty, allowing an easy comparison of poverty over time and across nations. But important factors such as cost and standard of living aren't considered. So even though it is easy to measure, it's not as effective and fair to those who are actually in poverty but don't qualify. So why refine the definition of poverty? There are many social safety net programs in America, such as Medicaid, SNAP food stamps, and Section 8 housing vouchers. It can be beneficial to people finding out who's actually in need. There's no purpose of these programs if they're not correctly helping people who are actually in need. And it can make these programs much more effective. So the main solution I'm going to be talking about today is a system called relative poverty. Relative poverty uses measures that change depending on the overall state of a country, allowing for context to be taken into account. For example, one might be considered in relative poverty if their household income is less than 40% of the median household income. Nations such as Sweden and the United Kingdom already use relative poverty to see who's eligible for social safety nets. A form of relative poverty that could work well in the US is one that's based off of Multidimensional Poverty Index, or the MPI. The MPI measures a lot of things like income inequality, health, education, crime, and employment opportunities to provide like a more holistic understanding of someone's life and their state, their financial state. The MPI is used to measure the global poverty rate by the UN, and in certain parts of America have already started using relative poverty. For example, in Boston, there's something called the Boston Rental Relief Fund, which uses relative poverty to determine eligibility, and it's found a great success in reduction of housing instability. Some issues with the MPI and relative poverty. A lot of people think it's way too multidimensional. There's so many factors that they're looking at, so it can take a lot more work to convey the state of poverty to both government officials and the general public. This can also make it very hard to compare the rate of poverty between different countries and different regions. Furthermore, the MPI needs to account for cultural differences across different regions, and using a complex set of criteria everywhere fails to take note of any of like the contextual nuances of people in different regions. For example, a 2015 study on citizens in rural India showed that changing the weight of specific metrics significantly alters the results of poverty metrics. Most citizens in rural India value healthcare much more than education, as it's something that directly affects their lives more. But under the MPI, these types of distinctions aren't made, and every category, every marker for poverty has like the same weight, even though, for example, people in India would value one thing much over the other. Some possible solutions. Although relative poverty has issues, it's clearly better than absolute poverty. Since the United Kingdom has fully implemented relative poverty measures, it's seen a 5% reduction in poverty rates due to the social safety nets. And to account for like some of the downsides, we can make sure that cultural differences across states are taken accounted for, and we can leave room for any comparison. And to do this, relative poverty should involve the same criteria nationwide, but should be measured at a statewide level with the different metrics having different weights depending on what a state values. And using a system similar to that of the UK or like the MPI with adjustments to fit the cultural context of specifically America seems to be the best way to go. Specifically, issues like crime and education seem to be very important to Americans. And these are my sources. Thank you. Those were basically all of our individual projects. I would now like to hand it over to Christian Paxton.
All right, thank you, Govi. All right, so today we'll be thanking our guest speakers and everyone that's really helped us on our journey through the Teen Think Tank program. So I'm going to hand it off to Paxton to start off with the contents.
Each of our guest speakers have been a great deal of help to not only our research, but also our writing and providing insights and wisdom that we could take further on our in our lives and providing help to all the things that we did in this program. So we're extremely grateful for all the help that they gave us.
We'll be going in chronological order on which guest speakers we've had first. So we're going to be beginning with Dr. Andrew Campbell. So he really provided us with a lot of information, and it was very helpful for the entire cohort because he talked about the values of being a leader. Essentially, he laid a foundation for us, and we were able to build off from the ground up. He was mainly there to inspire us and make us envision ourselves as a leader and who we really want to be. I found that he was very beneficial, and we were very thankful to have him.
Honey Whitman's talk was unique. She analyzed each of the communication styles that all of us had. She told us how to optimize our skills and our how to when doing research and shared research. I think as a whole, everyone appreciated her analyzing each individual's strengths and weaknesses. This information is extremely beneficial to us because we could use it in our daily lives after this program. And so we are extremely grateful for her to provide this information and insights with us. So thank you.
Up next, Mary Pascarella. So although she was not able to attend with us in the meeting, we were able to watch a recording of her, which was still beneficial because we saw the aspects of economics and how to be a good financial planner. So everyone from the cohort definitely found a valuable message from her, and we're grateful that she was able to provide information about financial planning because we were writing a research paper about finance. So thank you very much.
David Serta was provided insight on the LGBTQ plus community primarily and other minorities as well surrounding the housing crisis. This is obviously a really important and helpful talk for all of the cohort members because housing is something that a lot of people talked and wrote about in this cohort. He had a lot of knowledge about this topic, so him coming and talking with us was extremely beneficial to us. He taught us a ton about intersectionality in housing, so we're extremely grateful for him to take his time to come and talk with us.
Mr. Bruce Waltuck. So he provided insight on legal issues. And since he was actually a professor, he was able to give a different type of style than the other presenters. So he was very helpful to all of us because all of the information about government work and laws, he was able to really implement that and give us new insights that we wouldn't have had if he didn't present. So it mainly helped us with our research, and we were very thankful to have him because it was more of a workshop and it really just improved our skills.
Nancy Lau's presentation was extremely inspiring. She talked about her past and her background and how that affects her work today. Um, as an individual who works in community relations, she was able to provide us with valuable information and insights about our community and the economic aspect of it. She was able to tell us about a lot about the economic aspect of it because she works for Bank of America, and we are extremely grateful that she was able to provide all the valuable insight to us. So thank you.
So Jada Hendrickson, although she was not a guest speaker, she was actually very helpful with working through us without the entire program. She provided very detailed feedback and helped us on one-on-one sessions, making us write a very sufficient research paper. So we'd like to thank her very much for all the work that she's done throughout the think tank.
Lastly, Matthew DeSantis. He was the coordinator for the whole program, and I feel like he did a really great job in making all of us feel included and valued. He also helped us a lot with our skills, improving our skills, our research skills, communication skills, leadership skills, and I think he made a great use of our time to allow us to become change agents. So we are extremely grateful for that opportunity.
We just wanted to say that we're grateful for all the people that helped guide and support us throughout the entire program, and we thank y'all very much.
Thank you, team. Appreciate that. There's a few things that are evident. First and foremost, I need a new headshot, so I'm gonna work on that this summer. So next time somebody makes a presentation, they can have a better picture of me. But I do appreciate the kind words. The second thing that is evident is this is an exceptional group of teens. This cohort of 9 high schoolers during their summer vacation put together that presentation, that knowledge base, and that expertise over 3 short weeks. They've covered more information and produced more valuable content than most college students do in a entire semester in an academic environment that is conducive to that type of thought process. These are 9 teens across the country, across the world, on Zoom meetings at 10 a.m., 7 a.m. for some of them. So you are indeed exceptional. You are indeed not only the future leaders of this country, but the current change agents. And I look forward to working with you along the way. One of the names that you heard in that welcome packet was Jada Hendrickson. So I'd like to have her join me in the conversation. Jada, welcome. And you're an alumni of this program, and you're a junior in college now, and you're studying abroad, and you've done academic research. I mean, all I can say is wow. What are your thoughts on this group, both having worked with them up close and now seeing them produce this type of content in such a professional manner?
Yeah, I mean, it's been such a wonderful and like nostalgic experience. For context, hi everyone. I'm Jada Hendrickson. I'm a junior international studies major at Spelman College, studying abroad in South Africa. And this has been such a fun 3 weeks seeing the genius that these change agents have produced in only 3 weeks. I did the program in 2021, and that was over a few months. So seeing everything that they've been able to get done still continues to amaze me from the way that they think, from the content that they produce. It has been really a really amazing experience, and I'm grateful to even know you all and be in your presence.
Fantastic.
But right now, we are going to start with some.
Yeah, you're perfect, Jada. You're perfect.
Okay. Right now, we are going to start with some Q&A for about 15 minutes. So for the viewers, please feel free to drop some questions in the Q&A section of the Zoom. But in the meantime, I'm going to start with a few questions. So my first question is going to be for Akil. How did this experience differ from your traditional school-based project and or class?
Yeah, so this experience, clearly, it was only 3 weeks long. It was a lot more intensive than a traditional class, but more so than that, it was a lot more collaborative because in school and in class, a lot of times there's just some instruction and then you just work individually for an hour. Here, we would have instruction, but then when guest speakers came to talk, we would have discussions with them throughout their entire talks, and then we would go into breakout rooms and have smaller discussions. So there would be way more collaboration here than you would have in a traditional school.
Perfect. And Krish, for you, how does it feel to be a change agent?
Well, for starters, I'd say it feels great to be a change agent. It really feels productive because I'm working hard every day and researching to better the world and make a difference through my writing and research. And to be a change agent is to take initiative. And I felt like I've done that over the past 3 weeks. And I've been a change agent to inspire growth and take charge in my future. So I've really enjoyed the program and I'm really glad that I've become a change agent and I'll continue growing as one.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Sam, so how did your research affect your perception of what your professional career would look like?
Yeah, I think that I'm very interested in health sciences and everything. And at first, when I started this, I was definitely focused on like biochemistry and going to be like I want to be a pediatrician and everything. But I researched a lot more on public health and how your financial status may impact your health and vice versa. So I think I kind of found a niche in public health and kind of closing gaps in public health as well. So
I love how much your project correlates with what you want to do in the real world. So that's really wonderful that you had this opportunity to kind of hone in on what like your career would look like. And then so David, kind of a similar question. So what led you to study this aspect of economic inequality?
Yeah, so I do a lot of work with schools in New Jersey as part of my personal project, and then also as an intern for an organization called AAPI New Jersey. We reach out to school districts and we go to schools and we give them professional development workshops. And something I've seen that led me to want to study educational disparity from economic inequality was there is a wide gap between low-income school districts and higher income school district in terms of the resources that they do have and what they're able to offer their kids. And I just felt like this issue wasn't maybe as highlighted or as paid attention to, but that gap is very real and it's very evident, and it's an issue that needs to be solved. And so that's why I decided to study that aspect of economic inequality.
Thank you for your answer. So Mia, for you, in your perspective, throughout your time through the Teen Think Tank project, what do you view as the most important step for conducting research?
So for the most important step for conducting research for me would be to verify the sources. Because as research associates, when we're writing a paper, we have to ensure that the people who are reading it the sources that we're using, they're credible and they're verified. So for me, that's the most important step.
Perfect, perfect. And then Ethan, for you, kind of the same, throwing back the same question. How did this experience with the Teen Think Tank project kind of differ or even look similar to your traditional school-based project in class?
Yeah, I think kind of like what Akil was saying before, it's definitely a lot more intensive. Um, but I feel like the collaboration here is you can feel it a lot more because everybody wants to work, everybody's willing to work, and it's what we have to do. So whereas in class and you're like, oh, well, I have homework, I can get this done later. But here you want to create change, you want to do something with your peers, and I feel like that's what really differs.
Thank you. And then Govi, kind of getting deeper into your presentation, I know was about how we in the United States define poverty. So do you think there is hope that we can successfully reduce poverty? And in your perspective, how do you think we can do that?
Yeah, so I guess it can feel a lot of the time like it's an uphill battle that can never be won because people have been trying to reduce poverty for so long and it can feel like there hasn't been that much like effective change. But I think just like programs like this and like fostering education and making sure people know like different policy ways or just different ways in general that that poverty can be reduced. And I think education is just the key. Once people like know that, I think that can start to lead to actual change.
Perfect. And then Paxton, since you're in the same SME, I'm going to throw you the same question. Again, do you think there is hope that we can successfully reduce poverty? And how do you think we can do that in your perspective?
Poverty is obviously a very prominent issue in the US. So I believe to like completely eliminate poverty would be like an extremely hard thing for to do. I think the biggest thing to try to do that is to have a like to have the whole every individual understand the importance of removing poverty from the US and also the all and removing I feel like just educating everyone on the effects of poverty is would be the biggest thing. So I think just telling everyone that just spreading the uh news of poverty so would be the biggest thing to completely eliminate it.
Thank you. And then Nikita, kind of a lighter question. What was your favorite experience as a member of this research cohort?
Yeah, so I think my favorite experience was seeing all of the guest speakers because I think learning from all their different perspectives and a lot of the information that they gave to us was very beneficial. And I think it's something that I can definitely apply to like future experiences.
Thank you. And now that's going to be the last question that I asked, but if anyone in the audience has any questions in the Q&A section, please feel free to ask. If not, I'm going to throw it to Matt. Oh, wait. No, I have one more question. Complete lie, guys. So this is a group question for everyone. From your own personal perspective, what can adults do to continue to support your efforts and empower teens?
Personally, I think that like parents specifically, they are our biggest support system. We are always looking to our parents to support us and help us on this journey, I guess you could say. But I think that what adults can do specifically to help us be change agents is just be there, kind of a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like be if we need to ask a question, our parents, we always go to our parents or an adult for the answer. And I think that just by being there, adults can be that adults can be that outlet for us to be able to answer those questions.
I totally agree with Samantha, and I believe that the most important thing that parents can do is give us the motivation. It can be very hard and difficult to work without having the proper motivation to do it. So I feel like if parents give us the motivation, that's more than enough.
Going off of the two, I agree. Parents are a very big supporter for us. And I think the most important thing they can do is they can keep that drive going and they can keep fueling that fire. So we have the effort and the initiative to keep trying, doing new things, and to keep growing ourselves as change agents. So yeah, I think they can really just push us to be the best we can possibly be.
Yeah, I agree with everything everybody's been saying, and I feel it's really the role of the parents and just adults in general. Like you have teachers, um, aunts, uncles, um, anybody who's older than you, anybody who's been through life and kind of knows what to expect to kind of facilitate what you want to do, your ideas, but also just provide for you.
Okay, now that was my last question. So I'm going to leave it open again to the audience to ask any questions that they have for our change agents, whether personal or specific about their actual presentation. And then if not, I'll throw it to Matt.
Yeah, Jada, thank you very much. I really appreciate all the insights from the cohort and the depth of their answer and the genuine nature in which they tackle these conversations. We have been having these conversations for 3 straight weeks, and they never cease to amaze me. And just to kind of piggyback on their call to adults to play a role in their development. As an adult, sometimes the hardest thing to do is listen. But what I found is when I lend that ear and I process exactly what it is that these exceptional teens are trying to say, I tend to find it's pretty special and it's pretty motivational in and of itself. So that would be my advice for the adults out there, is to take the time and listen to a teen and understand what it is they're passionate about and what it is they care about. Other than that, I don't have much advice other than wear sunscreen. So if you're going to take anything that I say seriously, it would be that. Listen to the teens that are in your network, listen to the teens that are in your life, listen to the teens that are in your family to understand what it is they're passionate about, because I guarantee you that you will be not only impressed, but amazed and motivated yourself. So great job, team. Appreciate you all. As you can see, there are a ton of intrinsic benefits that go along with being a member of this program, the growth and the insights that they're able to develop. But we're a program for high achieving, high potential teens. So we understand the value of extrinsic benefits. So we would not be an academic program if we did not award some type of acknowledgments and recognitions for our team. So I would like to share with you all our 2024 Summer Research Cohort Academic Awards. So, as I said, the program is built to deliver intrinsic benefits. We like to see our research cohorts develop growth mindset and intellectual humility, leadership skills, and we have ways that we measure that and quantify that process so we can make sure that we are doing a good job of delivering those intrinsic benefits. But extrinsic benefits are also important. It's a way for us to recognize the hard work and dedication that's going into this program. And the first way we do that is through our honors program. All the individuals who participate in this program are asked to do a number of assignments, attend a number of meetings, conduct and compose journal entries in an attempt to earn points and unlock certain rewards and deliverables. One of those deliverables is the accumulation of 96.1% of all available points and assignments earns an individual the opportunity to graduate from this program with honors. Of our 9 research cohort members, we had 5 of those who were able to achieve that incredible standard, and it is not easy. I think the numbers break down to if you are late to one meeting and miss one assignment, it's physically impossible to obtain 96% achievement. So it takes a tremendous amount of dedication. It takes even more dedication to earn 100% of the points, which 2 of our members, Akil and Govi, were able to do. That is being on time for every single meeting, handing every single assignment in prior to the deadline, regardless of what else that you've got going on. And that is truly an amazing feat. But congratulations to all of our cohort members who put in the time and effort. Your dedication certainly does not go unseen. In addition to our honors program, we award a $500 scholarship to the research associate who best exemplifies the values of the Teen Think Tank Project. That's growth mindset, intellectual humility, leadership, fact-based dialogue. The things that they do here are the things that they will do when they leave here. So we want to reward those who are committed to developing those skill sets from day one. And as you can probably guess, it's very difficult for us to choose a winner of that outstanding research associate scholarship. It's so difficult that I hand it off to another one of our team members and say, I can't do this. It's too hard. Come back to me when you figure out who is our most outstanding research associate. And one of the ways they do that, they look at a scholarship essay that is submitted. They look at the work product that these individuals have put in. They have a one-on-one interview. It's a pretty extensive process for such this type of award. But the other thing that we look at is, what do the other research associates say about each candidate? And we ask, as one of our journal entries, who to you is the most outstanding research associate? And we get things like Akil is certainly worthy of the award. His outstanding contributions to the group are noteworthy. Sam is the most outstanding research associate. She does great work, but more than that, she's able to respond to the group setting. So clearly it's either got to be Sam or Akil. But no, Paxton is the most outstanding research associate. He gets up every day at 7 a.m. from the West Coast to join us. So it clearly is Paxton, but it also can be Govi. The amount of feedback we get from the other research associates on how wonderful their colleagues are is probably the best part of this process. And if we could spend 36 hours together just getting to know each other, I think it would make the program worth it. But they managed to put in time and effort to create the type of webinar and presentation that you see here. But there's only opportunity to provide one scholarship. We choose 2 finalists to make that possible. And this year's most outstanding research associate finalists are Akil Reddy and Samantha Binder. Working with them, it has been an absolute pleasure. As a research coordinator, I know that there are always a few individuals that I can go to help move the process along. And Akil and Samantha certainly set themselves apart in that manner. But alas, we can only pick one. And this year's most outstanding research associate finalists winner goes to Akil Reddy. Akil, congratulations. Why don't you take a second to enjoy the recognition and say a few words?
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, first off, I also just want to congratulate Sam because I know that her application and interview were incredible too, and both her and everyone else in this program were all outstanding research associates. Every day in the meetings, talking to them in the breakout rooms, everyone would just have like outstanding questions for the lecturers and everything. So I know that in almost any other program, literally all of these people would win something like this. But I just want to thank you so much for this scholarship. The Teen Think Tank has been a wonderful experience for me, and it's encouraged me a lot to follow my passion for change, following financial stability. Like in my future plans, I'm hoping to study economics and statistics and go into something related to this. And I'll put the scholarship towards applying for college and paying for the beginning of college in order to study this and try and be a change agent in the future. So thank you so much.
Akil, thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate the work of all of our cohort members. We are about 30 seconds away from getting out of here for the day. Just wanted to share some information that I think will be helpful. We are not done working as a cohort. We are not done presenting and publishing. If you could all bookmark teenthinktankproject.com. In the next week or so, you can head to our resources page and check out our research cohort portfolio page, where you will see the work of our cohort on display here. In addition, the research will be published on medium.com, where you can read the complete policy framework paper that takes a deep dive into the work of these research associates. Follow us on social media, most places at teen_think tank. You can follow their work and their progress, and we have built a community here, and we try to stay in touch with them all to make sure that they are getting the proper recognition. But with that said, our time has come to an end, and I usually struggle for final words in these instances. One, because the spotlight is not and should not be on me. Also because it's a kind of a bummer that this is the last opportunity that we're going to spend together. So in lieu of my own last words, I'm going to steal some from the Q&A chat. Mr. Peter Wang says, thank you for inviting me to this session. I have no questions, and I just want to express how impressed I am with the quality and depth of the work of the entire cohort. Keep up the good work. And with that, I think that's the perfect sentiment to leave everyone. We'd like to thank you all for coming. We appreciate you. We appreciate the time that you spent with us. We will ask the webinar participants to exit. I will ask the cohort to remain behind so we can have a few final words. But in the meantime, everyone, enjoy your day. Have a great weekend. And as always, keep being awesome. Thank you very much.